Hi there, Heba. Very happy to see that you have written a new set of essays. Let's take a look at what you've done here. Okay, so experts throughout both the developing and developed world have debated. You don't need to capitalize this. In fact, I don't know why there's a capital in the beginning of each one of these lines. It's a little strange. But moving right along, let's assume that all of these are lowercase. Let's try it again. Experts throughout both the developing and developed world have debated whether the growing phenomenon of not owing a private car, but owning private vehicles is considered a positive or a negative trend. Some believe that having their own method of transportation could be convenient and affordable in the modern society. Personally, I strongly disagree. This essay will argue why the benefits of owning a private vehicle do, because its benefits do not outweigh the disadvantages, using examples from the UK government and Oxford University. 2, careful here, not yo, demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay. On the one hand, the issue of private car ownership has grown in importance over the past few decades. This is due to the fact that modern lifestyles demand reliable and flexible modes, plural, of transportation on a daily basis. For example, recent empirical research by the UK government demonstrated that almost 40% of employees across London District, the District of London, or the London metropolitan area, that would be a really nice way to say this, would favor to use their own vehicles to commute to their jobs. Moreover, it must not be forgotten that public means of transportation, such as buses and trains, do not offer the flexibility of rescheduling daily trips, not the daily trips. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that private cars could be the most desirable alternative to for most employees, without the of, employees and job seekers. I felt like this sentence needed an additional, it's like a separate idea. So I felt that it really needed its own support. Okay, so I would have liked one more sentence here. Other than that, it was fine. Okay, on the other hand, although there is a popular trend of buying private vehicles among many people nowadays, I don't know what happened in this sentence. Let's see. The impact of overcrowded street and air pollution from car exhaust, no S, can be refuted. All right, I'm a little confused here. Although cannot be used on its own, you have to have another clause. Okay, so although there is a popular trend of buying private vehicles among many people nowadays, the impact of crowded streets and air pollution caused from car exhaust cannot be refuted. That makes sense. Okay, so combine this into one sentence and make this cannot. This is largely because the enormous figures of car ownership are not compatible with the infrastructure of most cities. For example, an extensive study by Oxford University showed that over 70% of caused related to London city busy streets I don't know what that means at all, is due to the rise in the number of vehicles on the street, especially during the rush hours, without the. Consistent with this line of thinking is that more vehicles on streets could result in an increase in the rates of car accidents as well as air pollution that could eventually affect the health and the well-being of citizens. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that utilizing other means of transportation, such as buses and rails, could serve as an optimum solution to the mentioned concerns. All right, I like that last sentence really very much. I like the optimal solution. I like the mentioned concerns. That was really good. However, when you make a conclusion like this, it would be nice if you had somehow mentioned, okay, let me put it to you a different way. This paragraph is talking about the negatives of car ownership, but the negatives of car ownership don't necessarily mean that public modes of transport are therefore better, because theoretically, public modes of transport could be bad as well. Okay, so they're not necessarily an optimum solution. What you should be saying here, which is a more logical conclusion, is utilizing cars as the main source of transportation has numerous insurmountable difficulties, because that's really what you're saying. This is what you have proved the entire time. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope so. If it doesn't, just, write it back in your email to us, but I think it should make sense. Okay. To sum up, from arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that encouraging people to use public means to commute on a daily basis could be a useful method to combat pollution and crowded street problems. It is predicted that public concerns regarding the rise of car ownership will increasingly grow in importance. All right, that's nice. Again, you mentioned public means of transport while you didn't really talk about it in your body paragraph. And all this is really interesting because in this paragraph as well, you've actually talked about the only time you really analyze public means of transport is to say that it's not convenient because it doesn't let us reschedule. So I'm not really sure how logical it is for you to do this. And to say that it's optimum here when you didn't talk about it at all in the paragraph as being optimum, and then again using it in your conclusion. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you had somehow talked about the positives of public transport, then maybe that would have been okay. But I'm also going to tell you something else based on what the question actually is in this essay, which is private car ownership. I'm not really sure how relevant that is. So maybe you should have rephrased all of this regarding public transport. Okay? All right, I hope that's helpful. I hope that makes sense. Let's take a look now at your second essay. It's the pie chart, okay? The shown pie charts compare, not compares, the shown pie charts, compare the popularity of various school subjects among students in New South Wales in 2 separate years, okay? Overall, it can be clearly noticed with a D that maths, physics, and geography were the most popular subjects in 2014 and 2017. Whilst, you don't need a comma, IT, no subject, recorded the least popular subject among students in both years. Is that true? Because, all right, maybe it is true. It would be really helpful if you included the graph in your answer. This way I can check the accuracy of your information and also to see if you've included everything you're supposed to include. Okay, what else did I want to say? I don't like this word recorded. It seems not to be the best word choice here. All right, moving on. As regards 2014, maths and geography were the most popular, with figures of, you need an of here, 27.3 and 27.7 respectively. And you don't mean in constraint, you mean in contrast. Fewer, not less, fewer students tended, with an ED, to prefer maths and geography in 2017, with figures less than 20%. Physics preferences among students you mean comprised, not compromised, almost 20%, with about a 2% slight rise in 2017. Okay, all right, let's see, I'm just checking this. Fine. As for biology, 13.4% of the students of the numbers of students. Why don't you just say 13.4% of the students prefer to study biology? You didn't need to say as for biology and biology twice. You could have just said prefer to study this subject in 2014. Whereas almost a quarter of the total number of students favored to study biology in 2017. Surprisingly, history subjects were not as popular, you don't need the much as here, among students in 2014. The figures in 2017 showed almost 20% of students preferred history, while less than 2% of students okay, there's a lot of repetition here. 13.4% of students. A quarter of students, let's say 20% of students, 2% of students. So it's a little repetitive. So I would like to see you kind of rephrase some of this language to change it up a little bit and not make it so redundant. All right, finally, here where the proportion of students who preferred PE in 2014 decreased by 5% in 2017. The percentages of students who favored IT subjects, no comma here, remain the same in both years. Okay. Now, you didn't include it in the graph. You didn't include the graph. We already talked about that. Fortunately, I do remember some information about it. If I'm not mistaken, this one also includes an additional subject, chemistry, which appears in 2014 but does not appear at all in 2017. And you left that out. If we are talking about the same graph here, which I think we are, it's a major problem if you don't mention it. You absolutely have to mention all the pieces of the pie. Okay? And it's also really worth mentioning that it didn't appear in 2017. So like I said, I'm pretty sure that we're talking about the same pie chart here, but that's a big piece of information you absolutely must mention. Now, I found this paragraph very repetitive. There are other ways to do it. There are other ways to address all this information. There's not a ton of information, so you should be able to mention all of it. I think there's like 14 pieces of information, so you should be able to mention all of it. Now, if you don't, the best way to do it is obviously to group certain things together. But you should mention every single category, every single subject. And like I said, you didn't mention chemistry, which is a big problem. So now what you need to do, obviously, Heba, is correct these essays, return them to us corrected, and then write your new set of essays. Don't forget also to add to your error correction list and send that to us. So I'll be waiting for those, okay? Good luck with these. You've done a nice job, but there are some problems. And like I said, this would really affect your task achievement score. So when you miss a piece of information, that's a pretty big deal. It will lower your task achievement score, okay? Keep that in mind when you're writing, and I will look forward to your next set of essays. Good luck.